Sinuiju GDP Growth Scenario, Episode 49, Golden Gateway, North Korea's Hong Kong, Creating the Miracle on the Taedong River. North Korean Workers' Party can do a market economy. After denuclearization, Sinuiju will enter a market economy and usher in an era of $20,000 per capita GDP enjoyed by a population of 650,000 within 20 years. Sinuiju's GDP is projected to reach $1 billion in 2027, the benchmark year for transitioning to a market economy immediately following denuclearization. Of course, this figure is incomparably lower than Pyongyang's $11.7 billion, which stands in stark contrast, but it is about average among provincial cities excluding Pyongyang. In 2027, Sinuiju's GDP per capita starts at $3,700. This is slightly higher than the national average of $1,700 in North Korea and ranks among the top of the country's 16 major cities. Sinuiju City is the capital of North Pyongan Province, located in the northwestern part of North Korea. Its area is 180 square kilometers. It is situated on the banks of the Yalu River and is connected to Dandong City in China via the Sino-Korean Friendship Bridge road bridge and the Yalu River Railway Bridge South Manchuria Railway Bridge. As of 2026, the population of Sinuiju is 280,000. Sinuiju is the terminus of the Pyongui Line and is located just over 30 kilometers from the mouth of the Yalu River. Sinuiju is the administrative center of North Pyongan Province and North Korea's largest border city, forming a single economic and living zone together with Uiju County. It faces Dandong, China, across the mouth of the Yalu River and holds great strategic importance as a major gateway connecting North Korea and China, as well as a starting point for the continent. Geographically, it is the terminus and starting point of the Pyongui Railway Line and a key logistics hub where railways and expressways connecting to Pyongyang converge. Since the Japanese colonial period, the chemical and timber industries in Sinuiju developed significantly based on the power supply from the Supung Dam, which utilized the abundant water resources of the Yalu River. In particular, the pulp and paper industries flourished, becoming a key factor in Sinuiju's growth into a representative industrial city in the northern region of North Korea at the time. Due to its geopolitical location connecting Manchuria and the Korean peninsula, commerce and trade were very active, and it was an open city where the influx of Western culture occurred more rapidly than in Pyongyang. Sinuiju's GDP is approximately $580 million, and its GDP per capita is approximately $2,070, which is higher than the national average of North Korea. Sinuiju's key asset is its status as the border economic capital of North Korea. Asset 1. The direct connection to Dandong via the Yalu River creates a border with China's largest trading city with North Korea. Dandong is the city in China that trades most actively with North Korea, with approximately 70% of North Korea's total trade taking place through it. Sinuiju is the North Korean terminus of this gateway. It is connected to Dandong City, China, via the Sino-Korean Friendship Bridge. Asset 2. The new Yalu River Bridge is an immediately usable infrastructure that has been left unused for over 10 years since its completion. The new Yalu River Bridge, a 4-lane bridge completed by China, has not been opened for over 10 years since its completion in 2014 due to a lack of customs facilities in North Korea. The moment this bridge opens following the denuclearization agreement, Sinuiju's logistics capacity between Dandong and Sinuiju will expand by more than 5 times compared to the current single-track Yalu River Railway Bridge. Asset 3. The Sinuiju International Economic Zone is an already designated central-level special economic zone. Designated in 2013, the Sinuiju International Economic Zone is a central-level special economic zone targeting IT, finance, logistics, tourism, and real estate. The fact that a legal framework already exists enables immediate investment entry. Asset 4, the terminus of the Gyeongui Line, is the gateway to the Korean Peninsula China Mainland Railway. Geographically, it serves as both the terminus and starting point of the Pyongui Line Railway and is a key logistics hub where railways and highways connecting to Pyongyang converge. Once the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway is completed following denuclearization, Seoul, Pyongyang, Sinuiju, Dandong, and Beijing will be connected by a single railway axis, and Sinuiju will become the North Korean gateway to this axis. Asset 5, existing light industry and chemical industry base. Representative factories in modern Sinuiju include the Sinuiju Enamelware Factory, Sinuiju Cosmetics Factory, Sinuiju Textile Complex, and Sinuiju Chemical Fiber Factory. The light industry base is advantageous for the immediate conversion of industries in the export processing zone. This is the current status and master plan for each district of Sinuiju. Sinuiju City is divided into 7 development districts based on functional characteristics. Zone 1 is the new Yalu River Bridge and Border Trade Complex District, covering an area of approximately 15 square kilometers along the border north of the Yalu River. It is a key hub capable of the fastest monetization after denuclearization. The master plan involves constructing a modern border trade zone simultaneously with the opening of the new Yalu River Bridge. The 4-lane bridge will be fully opened, and the North Korean side's complex facilities for customs, quarantine, and immigration will be completed. Since 6 to 12 months are sufficient to construct customs facilities following the denuclearization agreement, opening is possible within the first year of the agreement. Large duty-free shopping malls will be constructed on both sides of the northern entrance to the bridge. Duty-free sales areas for traditional North Korean handicrafts, ginseng, liquor, cosmetics, and souvenirs will be set up for Chinese tourists and ethnic Korean visitors making day trips from Dandong to Sinuiju. A Yalu River water tour pier will also be installed in this area to upgrade the current method of Chinese cruise ship tourists viewing downtown Sinuiju from the river without disembarking into a disembarking tour format. A border-integrated logistics terminal will be constructed in the south. It will consolidate container yards, cold storage facilities, cargo consolidation centers, and customs offices to handle trade logistics between Dandong and Sinuiju. The daily cargo handling capacity of the current single-track Yalu River Railway Bridge, approximately 10,000 tons, will be expanded to over 50,000 tons when combined with the new Yalu River Bridge. The investment scale is approximately 100 billion won for the construction of a border trade zone, 200 billion won for a duty-free shopping mall, and 300 billion won for a logistics terminal, totaling approximately 600 billion won. The funding sources are China AIIB border infrastructure loans and FDI from Chinese companies. The GDP contribution is approximately $500 million annually, from cross-border trade and duty-free tourism-based scenario year 5. Zone 2 is the IT, Finance, and Logistics Special Zone of the Sinuiju International Economic Zone, covering an area of approximately 20 square kilometers around the Geongui Line station. It is the core zone of the Sinuiju International Economic Zone, which was legally designated in 2013. The master plan fully modernizes Sinuiju Station into an international station on the Gyeongui Line. It is designed as an international high-speed rail terminal for the Seoul Kaesong Pyongyang Sinuiju Dandong Beijing route, and a 1-kilometer radius around the station is developed as a mixed-use complex. International business hotels, 2 4-star hotels, a convention center, branches of international financial institutions, Banks of Korea and China, and an office complex for trading companies are located in the station area. We will concentrate IT special zones in this area. We will designate a fully open global internet zone and attract the Sinuiju subsidiaries of Korea's Samsung SDS, Kakao Enterprise, and Naver Cloud. Software development, AI data labeling, game QA, and IT outsourcing companies are concentrated in this area. The core vision is to create an Amnok River IT corridor that enables real-time collaboration with Chinese IT companies in Dandong, across the Amnok River. The investment scale is approximately 500 billion won for mixed-use development around the station area and approximately 300 billion won for IT special zone infrastructure, totaling approximately 800 billion won. Funding sources include FDI by Korean IT companies, joint ventures with Chinese IT companies, and ADB urban development loans. The annual GDP contribution from IT, finance, and business services is approximately $300 million. Zone 3 is the Sinuiju Export Processing and Light Industry Cluster, an area of about 25 square kilometers located south of the city center. It is an area with existing light industry infrastructure, such as the Sinuiju Textile Complex and the Sinuiju Chemical Fiber Factory. The master plan transforms existing light industry factories into modern export processing complexes. The Sinuiju Textile Factory will be modernized through a joint venture with South Korea's Youngwon Trading and Sia Trading to become an OEM clothing and textile export base. This positioning immediately absorbs the demand to replace production in China, where tariffs of over 145% have been imposed by the United States. The Sinuiju Cosmetics Factory will be modernized through a joint venture with K-Beauty Brands. When it is converted into a cooperative production base for Korea's Amore Pacific and LG Household and Healthcare, a new marketing concept called K-Beauty Made in Sinuiju will be born. Leveraging its location near Dandong, we will establish an EMS contract manufacturing services complex with a structure of parts procurement in China, assembly in Sinuiju, and export of finished products. We aim to attract large EMS companies such as Taiwan's Foxconn. The investment scale amounts to approximately 1 trillion won, comprising about 500 billion won for light industry modernization and about 500 billion won for the EMS complex. Funding sources consist of 60% FDI from Korean fashion and consumer goods companies and 40% from the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The annual GDP contribution from export processing and light industry is approximately $500 million. Zone 4 is the Pyongyang Chemical Plant, LNG and Energy Cluster, located in the eastern part of the city and covering an area of approximately 20 square kilometers. The Pyongyang Chemical Plant is the largest oil refining and chemical facility in western North Korea, located in Sinuiju. The master plan converts the Pyongyang Chemical Plant to a crude oil and gas-based system via Russia and China. It supplies crude oil from the Russian ESPO pipeline to Sinuiju via Dacheng and Dandong, and modernizes the Pyongyang chemical facilities to restore the operating rate from the current estimated 30% to over 80%. It establishes a new LPG storage and distribution terminal to supply household cooking and heating energy throughout North Pyongan Province. Once the gas pipeline connecting Dandong to Pyongyang via Sinuiju is completed, an LNG combined cycle power plant. 500 megawatts will be constructed in this area to achieve electricity self-sufficiency for the Sinuiju Economic Zone. The investment scale is approximately 500 billion won for the modernization of Pyongyang Chemical and approximately 500 billion won for the LNG power plant, totaling about 1 trillion won. Funding sources include technical cooperation with Russia's Gazprom and Lukoil and an ADB energy loan. The contribution to GDP is approximately $200 million annually in energy and chemical production. Zone 5 is the Amnok River Island Border Ecotourism Zone, which includes Wihwado and Imdo, and covers an area of approximately 10 square kilometers of islands within the Amnok River. There are several islands in the Amnok River Basin bordering Sinuiju, including Wihwado, Imdo, Ryuchodo, and Dongryuchodo. The master plan develops Wihwado as an Amnok River border ecotourism island. Wihwado is a historical site where King Taejo Yi Seonggye of the Joseon dynasty took place during the Wihwado Retreat 1388, and it is a unique tourism resource that combines history and nature. A historical park, Yisonggi Wihwado Retreat Memorial Hall, a Hanok guest house, a bicycle route, and an observatory overlooking the Yalu River will be built on the island. Wihwado, located 15 minutes by boat from Dandong, will become the optimal location for Chinese tourists to briefly visit North Korea and experience a mini North Korea. Imdo and Ryuchodo will be developed into ecotour spaces for water leisure, canoeing and fishing, outdoor camping, and migratory bird observation. Yalu River Estuary Migratory Bird Sanctuary. The investment scale is approximately 150 billion won for the Wihwado History and Eco Park and approximately 50 billion won for other island developments, totaling approximately 200 billion won. The annual GDP contribution from history and ecotourism is approximately $100 million. Zone 6 is the Sinuiju New City Education and Medical Service Zone, covering an area of approximately 20 square kilometers on the flat land south of the city. It is a planned new city for business people, technicians, and their families who will move into Sinuiju after denuclearization. The master plan involves developing a new city south of Sinuiju capable of accommodating 80,000 to 100,000 people. The anchor of the new city is Sinuiju International University, specializing in trade, logistics, Chinese, and IT. We are pursuing student exchange agreements with universities in Dandong and sister university relationships with Inha University and Hankook University of Foreign Studies in Korea. We will establish a new international general hospital, 300 beds, to serve both foreign business people and citizens of Sinuiju. The scale of investment is approximately 1 trillion won for new city infrastructure, 200 billion won for an international university, and 200 billion won for a hospital, totaling approximately 1.4 trillion won. The contribution to GDP from education, healthcare, and services is approximately $150 million annually. Zone 7 is the Sinuiju Historical, Cultural, and Tourism Zone, covering an area of approximately 10 square kilometers in the old city center along the Yalu River. The master plan design revitalizes the old downtown area along the Yalu River into the Sinuiju Historical Waterfront. Promenades, a cafe street, and night view zones will be created along the river. Leveraging the fact that the night view of Sinuiju seen from night cruise ships departing from Dandong has already been commercialized as a tourism product in China, Sinuiju will also operate night tour boats and restaurant barges. We will modernize the Sinuiju History Museum, covering the history of the opening of the port during the Japanese colonial period, the history of the opening of the Gyeongui Line, and the history of North Korea-China trade. The investment scale is approximately 150 billion won for waterfront regeneration and approximately 50 billion won for the History Museum, totaling approximately 200 billion won. The annual GDP contribution from history and culture tourism is approximately $50 million. This is the GDP growth scenario for Sinuiju. We set the starting point at the time of the denuclearization agreement in 2027 with a population of 280,000 and a GDP of approximately $540 million, approximately $1,929 per capita. Sinuiju's 5 major growth engines are cross-border trade and logistics maximum contribution, export processing manufacturing, IT and financial services, energy and chemicals, and tourism and services. We use Shenzhen, China as a point of comparison. Shenzhen has grown from a fishing village with a population of 30,000 at the time of its designation as a special economic zone in 1980 into a world-class high-tech city with a current population of 17 million and a GDP per capita of $30,000. Although Sinuiju is smaller in scale and has different starting conditions than Shenzhen, it shares a high degree of structural similarity as a border special economic zone bordering Dandong, China. The basic scenario is the Dandong Satellite City Growth Model, where the GDP per capita reaches $20,000 in 25 years after denuclearization. This is a case where the opening of the new Yalu River Bridge and the legalization of border trade occur sequentially after denuclearization. 3 years after denuclearization, the new Yalu River Bridge will open, a duty-free shopping mall will open, and 50 companies will move into the export processing zone. The city's GDP will be approximately $1.3 billion, its population 310,000, and its GDP per capita approximately $4,194. 10 years after denuclearization, the Gyeongui Line high-speed railway will be completed. 200 companies in the IT special zone will be in operation, and 200 companies in the export processing complex will be in full operation. The city's GDP will be approximately $3.5 billion. The population will be 400,000, and the GDP per capita will be approximately $8,750. 20 years after denuclearization, the Sinuiju Dandong contiguous economic zone will be completed, and the city will enter the ranks of cities with a population of 1 million. The city's GDP will be approximately $9 billion, its population $550,000, and its GDP per capita approximately $16,364. A per capita GDP of $20,000 is achieved 23 to 25 years after denuclearization. The city's GDP will be approximately $13 billion, and the population will be 650,000. The optimistic scenario, based on the propaganda model, projects a per capita GDP of $20,000 20 years after denuclearization. This scenario envisions a simultaneous opening of the new Yalu River Bridge, attracting a large influx of South Korean and Western companies, and Sinuiju rapidly emerging as a new manufacturing hub in Northeast Asia. 5 years after denuclearization, with 500 export processing companies and 3 million annual duty-free shopping visitors, the city's GDP will reach approximately $4 billion and its GDP per capita approximately $10,000. Under an optimistic scenario, a GDP per capita of $20,000 will be achieved in about 20 years after denuclearization. The pessimistic scenario is a model of the Jangsongtak shock reenactment. This is a scenario where the implementation of denuclearization is intermittent, the opening of the new Yalu River Bridge is delayed again, and the structure of sole dependence on China persists. 10 years after denuclearization, the city's GDP will reach approximately $1.5 billion and its per capita GDP will be only about $4,167, while it will take approximately 48 years to reach a per capita GDP of $20,000. This is a comprehensive estimate of GDP contributions by industry, based on the baseline scenario 20 years after denuclearization. The cross-border trade and logistics sector accounts for 44% of total GDP, with an annual contribution of approximately $2.5 billion. Investment is required for approximately 600 billion won. The export processing manufacturing sector accounts for 35% of GDP, with an annual contribution of approximately $2 billion. Investment is required for approximately 1 trillion won. The IT, finance, and business services sector accounts for 9% of GDP, with an annual value of approximately $500 million. Investment is required for about 800 billion won. The energy and chemical sector accounts for 5% of GDP, with an annual investment of approximately $300 million. Investment is required for about 1 trillion won. The tourism, education, and service sector accounts for 7% of GDP with an annual investment of approximately $400 million. Investment is required for about 1.6 trillion won. When these are combined, the GDP 20 years after denuclearization will be approximately $5.7 billion. The population 550,000, and the GDP per capita approximately $10,364. The total required investment is approximately 5 trillion won, which will be executed in installments over 20 years. The decisive distinguishing feature of Sinuiju is a second chance separated by the Yalu River. As an open city where the influx of Western culture occurred more rapidly than in Pyongyang, Sinuiju began to take shape as a modern city in earnest after being designated as the terminus of the Gyeongui Line by Japan in 1906. Just as the Gyeongui Line created Sinuiju 100 years ago, the Gyeongui High-Speed Railway and the new Yalu River Bridge will remake Sinuiju after denuclearization. On the day this paradox that the new Yalu River Bridge has been neglected for over a decade since the execution of Jang Song-tak is resolved in an instant after denuclearization, the lights of Dandong across the Yalu River will shine with the same brightness in Sinuiju. That is the promise of Sinuiju, and it is the most immediate and visible economic change that denuclearization will bring about. This is the master plan for the entire city's infrastructure. Regarding transportation, it involves strengthening the Sinuiju-Dandong cross-border transportation network, constructing the Pyongyang-Sinuiju high-speed railway and expressway, and establishing an international railway hub linked to the Trans-Siberian Railway TSR. Energy builds a combined smart grid of gas power generation and renewable energy. The environment realizes improvements in the water quality of the Yalu River and the mandatory implementation of eco-friendly industrial complexes. As a smart city, it establishes a 5G and AI-based cross-border trade and logistics platform. This is the implementation roadmap. For the short term, 1 to 5 years, we will promote the modernization of the trade zone along the Yalu River, the commencement of construction on PC modular industrial facilities, and improvements to ports and railways. During the midterm period of 6 to 12 years, we will fully operate the processing industry cluster and complete the logistics hub. The long-term 13 to 20-year period will complete the smart international trade city and realize the integration of the China-Korea supply chain. This master plan focused on making Sinuiju a gateway city in North Korea's northwestern region that leads economic exchanges with China. If successful, Sinuiju will form the 2 major pillars of North Korea's external economy along with Rason. Through this roadmap, Sinuiju will grow from a closed border city into a golden gateway where the Eurasian Continental Railway and the West Coast Economic Belt meet, and will become a frontrunner in achieving a per capita GDP of $20,000. Based on its geographical advantage of being on the border with China, Sinuiju City has the greatest potential to grow into a frontline city for North Korea's foreign trade and processing industries. If cooperation with China, South Korea, and Russia proceeds smoothly after denuclearization, it will become a key hub driving the economy of the northwestern region and will play an important role in achieving a per capita GDP of $20,000. Next time, I will discuss the growth prospects of Wonsan. Thank you.